everyone. Today I'm going to be just filming a little review here on the new Eurielle album titled Goodbye Butterfly. This album came out last year, but of course was only a month ago, December 13th of 2019. And I had every intention of reviewing it back in December when it came out. But as you might know, I was in the middle of doing these like end of the decade year end list videos, and they just ended up taking up so much of my time. And there was just so much going on, with the holidays, that I just wasn't able to film that review back then when I promised I would, because I had done a track review of the lead single Petit Papillon on this channel. And so I knew that one of the first things I needed to do in the new year was film a video for this. So Eurielle is an artist that her real name is Lauren Walker. She's a UK singer. She's very classical in her genre, but I think that she is also very new age. But I mean, I use that term broadly. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of that genre title, but her music would be probably considered in that category. Enya is a huge inspiration, for example, for the layered vocals, the orchestral, the lush orchestra, the melancholic melodies. This is something that's right up my alley. And this is her second album. Her first album, Arcadia, came out 4 years ago in December of 2015. And I would review it on this channel, but I'll be honest with you, I actually think Goodbye Butterfly is an even stronger record. I love Arcadia. I just don't feel like I have as much to say about it. I don't know, maybe it's just because it's an older record and I've been with it for so long. There are standout tracks on there for sure for me. I just, if I had all the time in the world, I would say I would review it. But the truth is I'm probably never going to. Sorry. It's just, I'm mostly going to be reviewing newer stuff. I'm going to try and go back and pull from, the vast history of, music that I'm really interested in. And there's a few albums I definitely want to still talk about on this channel that I haven't done so yet. But for the most part, it's just the way it is. So this is her second outing, and it was a long time coming. She spent a year and a half really recording, writing. She worked with an orchestra in London, so this was like a huge production for her. And I was actually really impressed by the level of, I think, production and professionalism and the budget, to be honest. I mean, the fact that this had such lush music videos and dramatic sets and costumes and, full orchestra and full female choir and like just all of these pieces put together, it's quite incredible. And so Eurielle is an artist that I would definitely recommend for those of you who have not heard of her and you're happening to check out this video. If you like a lot of the other artists I talk about on this channel, I think you probably would like Eurielle's music. Lots of very beautiful, gorgeous, lush soprano vocals, lots of beautiful layered reverb vocals, great production, great orchestration, a very kind of chamber pop orchestra feel to a lot of her songs. Like I said, the lead single, Petit Papillon, it's sung in French. It's a very sort of rococo feeling song to me. It's very classically French. The lush female vocalists, the choir that comes in, the call and response nature of it, the xylophone, the production. It's very lush. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a calming song, and very classical. So it will appeal to older audiences, I think, extremely, because there's almost a slight operatic tone to her voice in the delivery. Very, very gorgeous high soprano vocals delivering this song. And of course, she sings Au revoir papillon, which means goodbye butterfly in French, which is the album title. And so you can check out that track review. I'll link it in the description. Lots of great things to say about it. There's an alternate version at the end of the album, which has a little bit of an accordion sound, so it feels even more classically French, which I love equally, just as much as the fully orchestrated version. So the top track on this record is called 0 Hour. This is a perfect sort of introduction to her very soaring, lofty, dynamic range of vocals without actually having any lyrics. So think of like, an opera, think of like an aria in an opera, for example, that is just purely vocalization. The modulations are all over the place and wonderfully beautiful on this track, blissfully melancholic. The idea and concept around this track, it's very epic. It feels like the entrance, the opening of a film or a video game. The whole idea of 0 hour is actually quite large and lofty in concept for Uriel. Thinking about where the planet is and where we are as a society right now, particularly when it comes to the climate and the crisis we are facing there, and you know everything that's contributing to this. There is this sort of feeling of the future is now, the moment is now, that we need to make the decisions to decide the future and whether it's going to be a more positive one of where we take better care of the planet, we take better care of the people on this planet, or we continue down this destructive path. And so this song is vaguely apocalyptic, and I do like that it's very cautionary in its treading, but it's also hopeful and exuberant. And the crescendo is just this 4-minute build. I mean, you just got to listen to it to really get that sort of feeling. And it's definitely something that feels very much in conversation with the music she did on her first record, Arcadia. So this lofty soprano vocal is something that I mean, you just can't get away from with her music. It's very present. It's very much her signature sound. So a great way to open up this record for sure. The next track, Break Free, is this beautiful chamber orchestra pop moment. Where we pick up the tempo, which is kind of refreshing because a lot of the songs on this record are pretty slow. There's definitely not as much movement as I kind of had anticipated in certain songs, which is perfectly fine. This is definitely a more ethereal, ambient record in parts, but with lots of layered vocals. But this is one of those songs where there's not as much layering and not as much focus on reverb, and more of just a focus on great string work, kind of percussively carrying through the melody line. And it's more of a classical kind of Romeo and Juliet style sounding romance ballad pop song. It definitely reminds me a little bit of Emily Autumn and the style of some of her, especially earlier music. So for fans of Emily Autumn, who like that sort of classical twist on rock chamber pop music, this would be right up your alley. And it's just very epic. I mean, the strings, I mean, like I said, it's very cinematic, and it's very Jane Austen. It's very the Bronte sisters, very Wuthering Heights. And that classic English feel comes through, I think, quite beautifully and richly. Track number 4, Song to the Siren. She's done a few songs kind of embodying this sort of otherworldly female sea creature goddess. Uriel's voice would definitely feel quite apt to describe as like a siren, luring sailors into the deep waters. There's another song later in the track list which I think is equally beautiful and sublime called Into the Deep. Both of these songs kind of piggyback off of each other in terms of concept. Song to the Siren has this sort of resolution to it, this feeling of, forlorn, searching for something, or being the thing that you wish someone would find. Because in this instance, she is not actually personifying the siren. She is personifying, a lost soul out in the middle of the ocean, kind of metamorphosizing herself as that. Whereas Into the Deep, she is singing from the perspective of the siren. So there's that interesting conversation happening. And there is just some gorgeous, immaculate vocal layering done on this track. Sail to me, let me unfold you. Wait, here I am waiting to hold you. The verse I find the most compelling out of the three is the verse 3. I am puzzled as the oyster. I am troubled as the tide. Should I stand amid your breakers, or should I lie with death my bride? Very Emily Dickinson, very very gothic and rich and emotive. Putting your heart on your sleeve, but at the same time shrouding it with just such romantic, melodramatic, lyricism. And it's what I would come to expect from Urielle and her far-reaching melodies. That you do feel like it's coming across you over the vast oceans. There's a sense of distance with her music, and I think that has to do with the immense walls of echoing reverb that's used in the reproduction, because everything is just out. It's like these vast, stretched out notes fading into other notes and giving a real sense of time and distance. And that's something that's just so gravitating about her music. The next track, In Freedom's Name, it's kind of interesting. I feel like this is a slightly more unique take for her, in that this song is so impersonal in a way, and that it is just a dedication to fallen soldiers. Where flowers now in bloom was once a ragged field, all shrouded in gloom, with fractures unhealed, like so many wounds too wide to ever seal, too painful to reveal. Those who lost along the years, they who fell among our tears, all who died in freedom's name in our hearts remain. So every, Memorial Day kind of sentiment, that, has been done a million times before, but Uriel giving her bittersweet, dynamic vocal delivery to a sentiment like this is a match made in heaven for sure. I mean, I definitely don't think this track is as memorable to me just because I think I automatically disassociate it a little bit with the sort of more deeply personal stuff and kind of this song feels a little bit more like a product made for that one purpose, and that one purpose only is to sort of be a tribute to lives lost on a battlefield. Of course, you could extrapolate that into being a metaphor. And, what battlefield are we talking about? I mean, so it could be medieval battles and some epic prehistory, it doesn't necessarily have to be a World War One or World War II song. But I could easily see it fitting into that narrative depending on who is listening. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a nice little Veterans Day tribute song. Although to me, that's kind of all it feels. Track number 6, Feels Like Yesterday. This song is all about longing for a reconnection with a loved one. Maybe you haven't seen them in quite some time. They're far away from you. You want to reconnect. And at the end of the day, you still dream of them every night. And it feels just like yesterday. One of the most melancholic, moments on the record for sure. And a sentiment that, again, I feel translates so well into her vocal delivery. Maybe in this song, for example, there's not as much dynamic and range that I would normally like to see. But I think this song is structured in a way to be a little more predictable so that it's just a comforting melody rather than one that is meant to, make the hairs on the back of your arms stand on end, for example. It's more of that comforting kind of repetitive mantra you say in your head about reflecting on a relationship that's been sundered by distance or time or a lot of different factors. So I mentioned Enya as an inspiration. Servant to Love is a much more ominous moment on this record where she sings in Latin. Are under your spell. This is all I dreamed of. I surrender myself as your servant to love. And it's pretty much just repeated throughout the chorus, whereas the verses are all sung in Latin. And this is one of those songs that actually has, a kick drum to it. It has the most probably up tempo string section accompanying it. And it is, like I said, very dire and very pressing. This song, I understand what she's doing with it. I think for my own personal taste, I don't think it's actually a song that I would seek out as one I would want to listen to as much, just because I feel that it is a little bit plodding in the manner it's constructed. But I understand it's a little bit like a marching song, like a processional, and the rhythm is very succinct and everything is on beat. And she mimics the style of Enya. There's a song called Cursum Perficio by Enya off of Watermark that I feel like this song is in most conversation with, just because of those Latin lyrics being so onto the rhythm and the percussive nature of the delivery. It is definitely mimicking that style. And, I think it's great that she's taking her own spin on that. And I do think that the use of Latin is more used as a tool to just frame her voice, as instead of actually having that much intrinsic meaning behind it. It's more of just a unique way. I think every singer feels that way sometimes, where they just don't want to sing in English and they would like to try their voice and their vocal style in another language. And Latin seems to be a popular choice for some of these more, think like Sarah Brightman, Enya, these like diva like new age goddess sopranos. Thinking of that sort of frame of reference, that the Latin lyrics give an extra weight that shrouds the song in more mystery than I think there is really there. But like I said, it works sometimes really well, and other times I think it comes off a little cheesy. But in in the spirit of not wanting to criticize as much, I still really appreciate the experimentation and the boldness of a song like this. I totally get why it was made. It's just not my cup of tea personally. Another World is a plea of an optimist sort of future of a partner uh, finding a way to make the thing work with your partner that you just want so badly, asking sort of the universe, but also asking, sort of indirectly to that partner, saying, like, when will it be our time for us to fully be together? When can we really take whatever this is that we have to the next level? I have the same sort of feelings about Feels Like Yesterday with this song. End of the day, this song isn't one of my favorites just because I do feel like it's a bit middling in terms of the vocal dynamics that are employed. There's not a whole lot of range or movement to this song beyond, just sort of the mid tempo basic structure of it. And so it's a little forgettable for me. The melody is not one that really sticks out or jumps off the page as much as others on this record would do. I talked about Into the Deep. This song has some immaculate vocal alterations, and twinkling instrumentation. Probably one of the most storybook songs on this record, feeling very whimsical, childlike, ethereal, fantastical. And images of vast oceans and what's underneath them, and like Atlantis, and mermaids with tridents. That sort of story arc is in conversation, and I find it just so alluring and engrossing and comforting. The song, is not all that austere, and for all that this song feels quite austere in parts, and almost cold because it's sort of like come into the deep. But is this a deep you really want to be coming into? Is this actually all that inviting? But then it's twisted to the I'll be by your side, it'll be okay, to this sort of calming effect. So there's this ebb and flow between unease and comfort that I think makes this song quite interesting for the listener, that is all the more inviting, I think. The final song, As the Skies Cascade, is one of the huge highlights for me on this record, and one of the songs I was the most excited to talk about. This song has a music video that was released along with the album, and it was filmed in Spain. Some very beautiful editorial shots, gorgeous costuming, some very vivid imagery employed around, celestial bodies, stars, the night sky, compasses, overall feelings of spiritual spiritual movement and spiritual uplifting. Um, and this song is one of the most esoteric, I think, that Eurielle has made to date. There's almost something a little Star Wars about the opening melody. I think it's those horns that come in along with that sweeping cinematic orchestral backing that gives this song a feeling of in a galaxy far, far away. There's definitely a feeling of stepping onto another planet, being, stepping through a portal to another dimension. I love the imagery conjured up by the lyric of As the Skies Cascade. If you think about it, the universe is constantly expanding and everything is moving. And it seems like to us that like all the stars we see in the sky are fixed points that don't move anywhere. Well, we know that they actually all do move, but we also are moving as well. But if you think about light that's been traveling to us for millions of years, is what those light stars are. In a way, it's light falling down upon Earth. I think that was just an interesting thing that I kind of took away from that lyric. And of course, I think this song is speaking of a little bit more of a heightened esoteric state where the skies, are truly cascading, not just appearing stagnant, but in the back of all of our understandings of time and space, they really are. So this is taking everything to another worldly level. And it's a great way to end out the record. And it's a cautionary, like I said, it's a vaguely apocalyptic song. The lyrics close with, the light is fading, and now we are nearing the last setting of the sun. The stars won't shine forevermore. When to our end we soar, the moon will lose her way as the skies cascade. The universe has a finite amount of expansion, and eventually, through some form or another, all I think of us can imagine and understand that there is going to come a point where most likely everything is just going to fade into oblivion. And of course, so this song sort of romanticizes that a little bit. And there is sort of this feeling of just because, this world is ending doesn't mean there might not be something else. And a lot of people suspect and extrapolate that to mean there are other universes that, we could perhaps travel to. There's a real feel of intergalactic, inter-universe travel, and that is something that will always be up my alley. I just, will always be deeply attached to music that is about, some kind of primal essence of the universe, of cosmology, of time and space, and understanding that. And so Uriel is definitely translating that beautifully on this track. And with the ever most, bittersweet melody that I think she's ever conjured up. It's a real highlight moment, and one I definitely recommend you listen to if there were two songs that you just wanted to decide to cherry pick from this record. And that would be As the Skies Cascade and Petit Papillon. I would also give a shout out to Song to the Siren, as well as Zero Hour and Break Free. Those are my other favorite songs on this record. And Feels Like Yesterday, honorable mention for sure. Definitely something I think that would intrigue a lot of, like I said, listeners, for people who love artists like Enya, Sarah Brightman, Emily Autumn, artists who use their lofty vocals to just purely tap into emotion. And in a transcendental way. And at the end of the day, that's what Uriel's music does, I think, pretty effectively. So overall, I'm pretty impressed with this outing from her. I think this is a very well tied together, cohesive record. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got some up tempo, a lot of, a similar structure of mid tempo, sort of lamentation balladry. And then some really sparse but beautifully lush esoteric moments. And I do think Petit Papillon, like I said, it's a beautiful foray in experimentation that I would like to see more of from her. I think that, she can really blend different unique styles historically with a more contemporary sound. And that the song doesn't ultimately feel that contemporary at all. And that's a good thing, I think. I don't necessarily want familiar productions that we are used to on sort of these more classical crossover type moments. So I think Uriel is a brilliant, underrated singer songwriter that deserves a lot more recognition. And so I'm happy to be giving a little bit of a shout out to that on this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Please let me know in the comments if you've heard the album, what your favorite songs are, or what your favorite Uriel songs in general are. And I thank you all so much for watching. Please give this video a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I hope you all have a wonderful, blessed day. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, love, and light.